Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Getting In, a College Coach Conversation. I was a guest on last week's show. I'm the host for this week's show. My name is Ian Fisher, and I want to welcome you all here today for what we've got lined up. I think it's going to be a really terrific show. We are going to talk a little bit later about how to use some of the more under-discussed elements of the Common Application, your activities lists, your COVID-19 essay section, your additional information. We'll also talk a little bit about the CSS profile, which is a really sort of uncommon financial aid form that often goes with the FAFSA, especially for private schools. But before that, we want to continue the conversations that we have been having around essay supplements. And to do that, we are going to welcome my colleague, Tova Tolman, who's way over at the other corner of the country down in Georgia. Tova, good afternoon.
Hi.
Welcome
Hello.
to the show.
Thanks, Ian. It's good to be here all the way from Georgia.
All the way from Georgia. Well, I want to mention that because we are talking about schools in Georgia today. And we are going to focus on the supplements for the University of Georgia, the Bulldogs. Go Dogs.
No, dogs.
Just dogs.
Dogs. Bulldogs, yes.
They are the Bulldogs, but you say dogs. Okay.
Dogs.
And the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
They don't say Go Jackets.
They would Go Jackets. So let's see, which of these two would you prefer to talk about first? I'm not particularly wedded to either of them, but I think they're both pretty interesting in terms of the way that they use their supplements. So what do you want to start with?
That's true. I feel really strongly that we start with Georgia.
Let's start with Georgia.
What people call UGA.
A lot of people feel pretty strongly about this essay question, people that we work with. And I think that it really comes down to that first sentence in the essay supplement. And it's almost sort of like, I don't know what these sort of, we're in October, sort of in the Halloween month where you like say something and then it appears. Like it really feels like this supplement does that for students. So the first sentence is, the college admissions process can create anxiety.
Right. I'm anxious already.
You're anxious already. And then they say, in an attempt to make it less stressful, please tell us an interesting or amusing story about yourself from your high school years that you have not already shared in your application. And you have about 200 to 350 words for that essay. Now, I don't know, Tova, is there another question that you can think of that puts as much pressure on the student as this one that basically tell us an amusing story? Like the pressure, I think, to be amusing can be pretty high. What do you think?
I think that's the problem with the way they phrased it right there. They use the word amusing and you immediately can only see that. But they have an or statement there. Tell us an interesting or an amusing statement. You tell me to amuse you, I feel super overwhelmed, stressed, and like, oh my gosh, now I have to make you laugh.
Right.
But they're not saying that. They're saying, please tell us an interesting or amusing story. So I've had some conversations with Georgia admission representatives, and they say, if you're not funny, don't try and be funny. This is not an opportunity for everyone to try their bit at stand-up. Right. It can just be something that makes you go, huh, and ideally will make them go, huh, because you're right. If it's amuse me, I'm panicked and I'm going to sit there blank and looking like a deer in headlights, and I will not be able to come up with anything mildly amusing. So take the pressure off yourself and don't feel like you have to amuse them. This might be your opportunity to be amusing if you have the ability within you, though.
If you can do that, yeah. And I think that advice is advice you've been giving me since we've known each other. If you're not funny, don't try to be funny. Just stop it. So I love that because I think that actually when we look at a lot of essay supplements, you'll see supplements that have these very long preambles. Maybe they'll have a quote. They'll have this huge statement that is more attributed to sort of the philosophy of the institution. But then when you fundamentally come down to what is the question that's actually being asked here, it sometimes makes it a lot easier for students to sort of address it, right? So you can essentially eliminate that first sentence from your consideration. The college admissions process can create anxiety. Well, let's just get rid of that idea completely. Let's forget in an attempt to make it less stressful, because we can't make it less stressful. Let's just look at, please tell us an interesting or amusing story about yourself from your high school years that you have not already shared in your application.
Right.
Right. So
keep in mind.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, until this year, Georgia wasn't on the Common App. right? This was their one opportunity sort of for like, tell us a little bit about yourself, because they weren't using that main Common App essay.
Mm-hmm.
This was in a way like, show us your personality, show us something about you that like traditionally the main Common App essay has that opportunity to do. So I don't know if it needs to be something so dramatically different than the way you might approach any old essay where you're just helping a college get to know you.
Yeah, I wonder about that, because I think that while we can't eliminate the preamble, if we want to get down to brass tacks and actually answer the question, there is an element of the framing that might suggest, hey, we want a story. But I think that that might send students in the wrong direction, that they're thinking about, okay, well, one Friday, my friends and I decided, do we want something like that? Or are we looking for something that has the more sort of traditional kind of arc to it, where there's an event that happened, it changed my perspective in this kind of way? Like, how would you think about this in comparison to a more traditional personal essay?
I think that the takeaway message that's so key in a main personal statement doesn't have to be as prominent here.
Gotcha.
I think if it is just some sort of like, interesting, without a so what, and the so what can maybe be implied, that's fine. Whereas how often are we talking again and again about the importance of the so what, and why does this matter, and why are you telling me this in the main essay? I don't know if that's needed as much in this one. This really could just be an opportunity to amuse them.
It could be. And I think that this is about your personality coming out, kind of who you are behind the scenes, a little bit of maybe a characteristic that, they point out, something that's not already shared in your application.
Right.
So think about, all right, what have I not shown that might be cool? And it might be a place where you can say, I've always had an interest in bird watching, and I have nowhere to put that in my application. I'm going to put that in there. Or I love baking cakes, so I want to talk about that. I mean, you can do things like that. I think you don't want to go super trivial, but this is inviting you, I think, to have an opportunity to really bring yourself forward. All right,
I think this is your chance. I know you want to go into Georgia Tech. I'm not done with the dogs yet.
Okay.
Sorry. One more piece, because in conversations with their counselors, they emphasize how much the essay really can matter in terms of swaying personal opinion of how much they like the kid, how much they like the student. And I think the essay is a chance for you to make that just really likable, approachable human piece to your application. In their holistic review sort of parameters and rubric, they have a lot of extra points for just professional opinion, AKA, what the admission counselor wants to do. And I just really like this kid. I want to admit them. There's a lot of room for that in the Georgia process. And I think that this essay can really sway that opinion. That's it.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to add.
Are you done?
I am.
Okay, so let's talk about, no, I think that's great. Actually, that's really terrific insight, is just hearing a little bit about how the actual admission officers use this. And hopefully that helps you to get a good sense for how to approach Georgia. Now, with Georgia Tech, we are really looking at something that's, I think, unusual with Georgia Tech, given how selective they are. They are a pretty selective institution. And the fact that they are on the Common App, they have announced that they are not considering your Common App essay. So
can I read their language for that? Because I think it's so funny.
Yeah,
it's so technical of an Institute of Technology. If submitted, we will not consider this essay as part of your application review. Like, they could not make that more explicitly clear. They are not looking at that main essay.
So I would almost not consider this a supplement, because a supplement goes along with something else. This is really the Georgia Tech essays. You have 2 essays that you get to write. You get some flexibility in terms of a choice here. Let's start with the one where you don't have a choice.
Sure.
They ask, why do you want to study your chosen major specifically at Georgia Tech? And I think, Tova, that a lot of students might have an instinct to want to reuse an essay that they've already written about a particular area of interest. How do you think that that might work for students as they think about this particular question for this particular school?
Poorly is how I think that would work.
Okay, so what would you recommend instead?
Answering the question they ask, which is why Georgia Tech, right? Yeah. It's not just why that major, why this major at Tech. Might you premise it and why you're interested in this particular field of study? Sure. But then, okay, you can study that probably at a whole wide variety of different schools. Why do you want to study it at Georgia Tech? Is it their puppy day during finals? That's why I want to go to Georgia Tech. What is it about their professors? What is it about their faculty? What is it about the research that's happening at that school? What is it about the resources and facilities, or whatever it might be for you, the puppies? Why this at Georgia Tech?
Gotcha.
So without that specificity, it's just a missed opportunity.
And I think you're absolutely right. This is only a 300-word essay, so it
Right.
is quite short. And I think that, why this college essays can be anywhere from 100 to 650 words typically. What I've seen a lot of students try to do with Georgia Tech is they'll take sort of the foundation, a 200-word chunk of let's say a computer science essay, and then they'll add a third short paragraph of 100 words that's about Georgia Tech. And I think what you're suggesting, what I would suggest as well, is that that's not going to work for this school. That really the whole bulk of your 300-word essay needs to be about Georgia Tech. It can't be CS plus a little bit about the school here. It's got to be from the start about Georgia Tech and its specific methods for engaging with that particular major. How would you recommend that a student go about doing research to figure out how to write this piece?
Well, the part that you asked in your question is part of the answer is that they have to actually go and do the research. How do we do the research? Sure, we can talk about that, but I don't want to skip over that important part of it. They have to actually do research. It can't just be like, oh, I want to apply Georgia Tech. Well, why? So where do they find the answers to some of that? There's a lot actually on a school's website beyond the front page. Right. I think students will go to click on academics, list of programs. Great, they have my program. Maybe they scroll to the bottom of that page and then that's it. If you actually click into a particular department, you can get far beyond the hood or under the hood and actually under the hood and look to see what are faculty researching? What are their bios? Are there interviews provided on the website with different faculty members? Speaking to current students in that department and asking them, well, what are you doing? What research are you involved in? Did you get involved in anything already your first year, your sophomore year? Who's teaching your courses? What are the average class sizes within that particular department, not just the larger university? Those stats are easy to find, but schools or department-specific ones are going to require a little more research. Looking to see through the Career Development Office website within that particular school, what are students within this particular major doing afterwards? Yeah. And essentially getting under the hood of that particular school's website is pretty valuable, as is talking with current students.
Yeah, I think that by saying they really are helpful here. It's not just a why Georgia Tech, it's a why do you want to study your chosen major. And so if you are looking to do research, go straight to the page for that major and start clicking around and finding some information there. I think that it's better to focus on sort of overall, what's the message that you're getting about the particular approach to education that they take at that school, rather than I want to take this class with this professor, which shows me only that you looked up that class, unless you've got something deeper to say about it. So while it can be helpful to be specific, I think you don't want to be so specific that you miss the forest for the trees. Now, we've got only about 3 more minutes, Tova, so I do want to come up to these other 2 questions. And what I would say is that you've got sort of one that is very much open-ended. If you feel that your personal or community background could provide additional insight to your application, please share it here, which I think feels a lot like the first prompt for the Common App, except that you get only 300 words.
Right.
The other is Georgia Tech is committed to creating solutions to some of the world's most pressing challenges. Tell us how you have improved or hope to improve the human condition in your community. And I really want to focus on that one. I think that our listeners can go back into the archives and listen a little bit more to just general essays and personal statements. But with respect to this idea about the human condition and community, how would you encourage students to think about this? And is there sort of a test that they can give themselves to think about whether this is the right essay for them to approach? Do they have to have had a certain kind of experience, or could this work for everyone?
Or could this work for everyone? I don't think that there's a narrow window as to what kind of problem you might have fixed that has to fit into this particular slice. But with that said, as broad as it could be, I don't know that this necessarily works for everyone. I think a lot of students are going to get to this one and say, I don't know, I haven't fixed a whole lot of problems yet. I'm just starting out and fixing the problems. Or, after a little bit of reflection, they might think of something that might be able to work here. And I think that there's a lot of room for creativity. It doesn't necessarily have to be, well, that gadget that I was using didn't work, so I engineered a new arm robotically that came out and fixed it. I don't think that's necessarily what they're talking about or what it has to be. And that's why they use the words human condition. So I think that there are broad applications for how this could work, but I don't think that everyone is going to have necessarily something to write for that or that feels authentic. And this is what's key that Tech puts in their own guidance. If you look on their site, as to what they're recommending. That they say is, don't write what you think we want to read, write what you want to say.
Right.
I mean, that's right there. I mean, I don't know why you brought me on here. We could just pull up their website and share the screen and say, well,
do your research. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's what tech says they want. And basically they want authenticity and self-awareness. If you're going to be self-aware and realize, what have I done so far in terms of real problem solving? Use this other prompt. That's okay. It's not like they're preferring one over the other. So I would take their advice to heart and think about some self-awareness and authenticity and write really who you are, what you want to say, not what you think they want to hear.
No, I think that's right. I think you take a look at these two options and you say, okay, what do I most want to share given this essay? And if it's something that fits into the box of that human condition improvement and community, then write it with that lens. If it doesn't fit there, then approach the second topic. I think you've got a lot of flexibility. Tova, thank you for talking to me about Georgia Tech. I got one other question for you. Are you on Instagram?
Am I on Instagram?
Yeah, are you on Instagram?
Yeah, I think.
Great. So is College Coach. There we are right there.
Yeah.
And I wanted to point out actually that you can follow us on Instagram at College Coach BH. We are doing a giveaway to celebrate our 300th episode. And Tova, I don't think you're eligible for this, but that's okay. Don't worry about it. You can go and write a review of this podcast, which I know that you love because you listen to us all the time. You can write a review of our podcast, and then your name will be entered to get 2 hours of counseling with one of our experts, which is a really great deal. All you have to do is say some nice things to us on Apple Podcasts. We'll take note of your name, and then we will let you know if you win. So Tova, thanks for coming on the show. You're not eligible. I know you're excited. You got your fingers crossed, but I'm sorry. But thank you for coming on for today. And folks,
I think I have to end by saying, go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
I live in Georgia now. Go Dogs.
And when we come back, we will be talking about some of the lesser focused elements of the Common Application. Don't go away.